Namaskar, hello, and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today is the special episode number 81, January 24, 2021, and I have with me our guest Sridhar Chityala ji. Sridhar ji, Namaskar, and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar and a very warm good morning to you. Though here we are freezing in minus degrees in New York.
Yes, indeed, it's 40 degrees here, and which is pretty close to zero. I mean, as close as to zero as we can tolerate. You should remember that we are spoilt out here. Other than the fact that the earth shakes, we have pretty good. Sridharji, we convened this special episode because there is so much happening over the weekend that our viewers should be aware of. Let's start off with the New York Times interview that Biden gave, where a few very interesting observations emerged. Whether these are going to happen in effect, they are going to be put in effect or not, we'll have to wait and see. But certainly it gives us a hint into what this administration wants to do. It seems to be in a tearing hurry to do a few things, and we have a few concerns about that. So let's start, sir, with his statement that he will be lifting tariffs on $360 billion worth of goods against China, which Trump had imposed, which, if you remember, was what started it all a few months ago. Now, if you viewers, you may remember this, a few days ago, we had mentioned about how $145 billion worth of inventory from China was actually sitting in the docks in San Francisco. Will this mean that they are going to give an order to let those things in without laying any tariffs? So what is all this thing? Is United States going to now claim that they invented the Wuhan virus in Wuhan? I don't know. I'm just making this up. But don't take my word for it. Let's see what Sridharji has to say about it.
Well, I think that thank you for setting the context. What it just brings to the fruition is a very quick and rapid unwinding of the Trump's policies. How one came up with this $360 billion magic number to eliminate the tariffs, but at the same time say keeping the Trump's phase one plan in place, which is the specific threshold that China needs to meet from an export point of view. But the fact of the life is 360 billion just increases, and China says thank you, no thank you. I'm taking it. I'm ready to going to push these goods on. And there is a Democratic representative, Maria Cantwell, who justifies this $360 billion by stating that it is going to create, $245,000 in one of the interviews that followed this New York Times article that you are referring to. Now, they forget the fact that the tariffs help to bring, close to $483,000 manufacturing jobs back into United States. They've forgotten that. This was also the subject of debate that occurred in the vice presidential discussion, and where our friend Kamala Harris, the vice president Kamala Harris, slipped, and then she talked about 30,000. So we have the first kind of sign of issues that we are propping up. Now, if you go back during the Senate hearings of Yellen, in terms of the nomination, she had gone public, cited by CNBC, that she has a whole bunch of fiscal tools, monetary tools that's available at her disposal to deal with China around this, IP issues, legal issues, tariff issues, subsidy issues, currency issues, and some of the human rights violations. She touched on that facet as well. So when you go into the facet, then you find today on the just either preceding or post this New York Times article, she went on further to say, well, we got to be careful with China, and we shouldn't rush into any quick decision, and we should be working with our allies in terms of how we have a coordinated strategy. So there is a flip-flop even from Janet Yellen around this. She's not yet to be confirmed, but she will breeze through, she will get confirmed. So you're beginning to see the kind of the political tremors, going into the Yellen kind of a sing and dance scenario. Now, I have not checked this, but I've also heard from my other colleagues that in the WhiteHouse.gov, there seems to be some exemptions also creeping in on the 5G and the ZTE technologies, which initially were considered hostile from a U.S. interest point of view. So there's a slew of actions around China that seems to indicate Biden's softening stand around Biden softening. How far, how deep he is going to go, we don't know. But clearly, there are visible signs of softening from Biden.
Sir, one thing that I observed from what you just said is that the shadow of China seems to be hanging very strongly over this incoming Democratic government. And what explanation will Biden and his government have when they come to know that any Chinese technology has the possibility that they may have some receiver circuitry which will respond to an electromagnetic pulse and render that equipment useless? How many times does US wants to be slapped around by China for trusting, I put it in double quotes, China? I'm just baffled that something as black and white, I can understand some of the other political postures, but this is black and white. Technology doesn't lie. If it's designed one way, it is going to work one way, and unless you have a bug, but it's still a well predictable behavior. What is this rethink on 5G? I thought it was black and white clear that United States was going to develop its own 5G technology.
Well, I think there was also the adjacent players who are providing support to 5G technology and adjacent players who are involved in using 5G and who were importing certain other types of equipment from United States were considered to be banned. So let's wait and see whether there is a formal communication around that. But some of the points that you're making are very valid. Let's wait for the formal communication on that specific topic. It's very clear India, Japan, Vietnam, Korea, United Kingdom, and France have pursued an independent path, as far as the 5G technology is concerned. Now, if 5G is baffling to you, Eric Salzwell, who is considered to be potentially in compromise, who was in the House Intelligence Committee, now he is the impeachment manager. So when you have somebody who has had questionable issues around the China and potential compromises, you find he is the impeachment manager. That tells you. Similarly, Adam Ness also is involved in one of the actions within the whole kind of this impeachment process. So I think that we're going to in for a lot more surprises. The first set of media releases that we are getting should not be the barometer for what further to come in terms of the broader policy actions. The broader policy actions seem to indicate that Biden is being pushed and pushed back into the old Obama years when Chinese incursions and Chinese belligerence increased right under his watch. There's one more important point. For some strange reasons, the Obama extending into Biden somehow feel the Cold War still exists. The problem is with Russia. The problem is not with China. Okay? And that is probably a significant miscalculation, notwithstanding the rhetoric constantly saying, well, we have problems or we have stuff, but we still need to be cognizant of what's happening with China. It seems to be, okay, by the way, we need to be, but we'll do more business with them. It's a very, very unfortunate, and knowing what has happened, okay, and knowing all the stuff that has happened, it's a very unfortunate situation.
Viewers, the EMP incident is real. It happened in 2010. You can go back and look up Google for what is EMP, electromagnetic pulse. And at the time that alleged incident took place, Mr. Obama was on a trip. In fact, he was in India, visiting India. And evidently, the response from the US government was too late, or enough late that the Chinese submarine, which initiated it, escaped. So anyway, so these are all things that people will not want to admit. And you deserve what you vote, and that's what you have got right now in your hands. And good luck, America. You're going to have a lot of fun in the next 4 years if the first 4 days are any indication. So let's go back and look at the next thing, which is the confirmations. You touched upon it. You just said that Janet Yellen is up for confirmation. So are many other people of the Biden administration, isn't it?
They are. I think two people have been confirmed. I think the person who has been confirmed is Lloyd Austin as the Defense Secretary. He has been confirmed. Similarly, Avril Raines has been confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence. This Janet Yellen comes up on Monday. Then Anthony Blinken comes up, who is the State
Secretary
Secretary.
of State, yeah.
Yeah, so he comes up, and then after that comes another important person by name Gina Raimondo. Gina is the governor for Rhode Island. She's considered a much more moderate Democrat, comes from the venture capital industry, but there's been some controversy surrounding her. But she's going to have a broad set of policies and activities surrounding her, ranging from managing economic data, the census, also the policies, trade policies around the world, the technology deals that shape the whole kind of the security aspects of the country, etc. So I think Gina Raimondo confirmation will be a very interesting kind of confirmation. Similarly, Anthony Blinken's would be one. I would also say the CIA nominee, Mr. William Burns, notwithstanding the fact he's a fairly well-known figure, there would be very interesting kind of observations in terms. They're all slated this week, the coming week, which is week commencing January 25th. Before you ask, I just want to touch, just to wrap up, two other points on the Biden stuff, right? One is this $15 you kind of talked about. So the sweeping changes, $15 you talked about is now made it even for federal employees minimum $15. So it's kind of doubled the minimum wage from $7.25 to almost $15. That he has introduced as a mandate. He has also introduced as a mandate, and he has asked the director for FDA, which is the Food and Department of Agriculture, to increase the subsidies and to increase the direct benefit transfers to a whole segment of people by 15%, including adding, he uses the word low income 12 million. To me, the low income number is 9 million, low income is not 12 million. The 12 million number to me more points to all these illegal aliens if I correlate these two numbers. So he's introduced that as a executive action. He has also introduced rolling back the taxes as an executive action. All these series of things has been snuck in and introduced. And he hasn't stopped there. He went further and he said those children, those families who have children between 0 to 6 age, they will get $300 per month and balance through tax credits. That's $3,600 cash going out per year. And those who are between 6 and 17, $250 per year, $3,000. These are all not in the stimulus. So using executive actions, these changes have been cascaded. Besides, we have already talked about the jobs getting out in the energy sector. So what we are staring at is that we in PGurus are going to add all these numbers and going to start projecting week after week, month after month, and hold the government accountable because nobody adds numbers. In the United States, nobody adds numbers and calculates the budget impact and the deficit and the debt impact because such things are thrown in. So it's important as citizens, we have to stand up and point out these numbers are flagrantly wrong. And it is going to create a very much, as one senator put it, we are now into big government and socialistic government being unleashed into United States. So this has huge consequences, all done in less than 3 days.
Now, I have one clarification. I think our viewers also might be thinking along these lines. You have two numbers, 9 million and 12 million. Does the 12 million include the 9 million, or it's a separate 12 million, by which you mean these are the illegal immigrants?
Well, based on what I have heard through the rhetorics and the numbers, is the 9 million low-income families in the political rhetoric, 9 million low-income families who remain below the poverty line despite stimulus 1 and stimulus 2. Clearly, they have to be the focus. So that's where I'm drawing the numbers from. The 12 million number is the illegal migration, which is illegal immigrants who need to be put through a two-phase process of this 5 years and 8 years in terms of normalization and absorbing them into the system. That's why the moratorium was introduced, an asylum seeker, special officer was constituted. So my inference comes from those two data points, 9 and 12, from the whole set of rhetoric that has been, that we saw in the campaigns, and in terms of who have not been addressed clearly via the stimulus program.
Thank you, sir. And let's move on to our next big topic of the day, which is the impeachment trial. From what reports I'm reading, the trial is going to, the process is going to start on February 8th. That's what the Senate has agreed to do. And Trump has hired a lawyer for his defense. And he's also planning a reply. Now, the whole thing is a waste of taxpayers' money. The Democrats have already wasted taxpayers' money, voting these resolutions in different cities on anti-CAA, which has nothing to do with the United States. At least this one has to do with the United States. But again, it's a moot point that this person is no longer the president of the country. Then why waste time impeaching? And plus, what is the judicial standing in the Constitution? What is the clause in the Constitution that says that you can impeach a president who's no longer in power? Then in that case, will they take up the case of Mr. Bill Clinton? What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, I think my thoughts are very clear that we are stepping into a constitutional issue. That's number one. Number two, we are getting into a political satire, the same political satire we witnessed during the Clinton impeachment saga, which dragged on for singing and dancing that went on and the whole stuff unraveling. I think that's what it is going to be. Now, here's the scenario. The scenario, let's go with. So, the managers have been appointed by the House, who will be launching the proceedings. Both Senate, Mr. Schumer and Mitch McConnell have agreed to a type of a set process, and they have also announced the date, which is February 8th, to initiate this. They agreed that a simple majority, yes or a no vote, will determine whether they proceed with the impeachment hearings and then prosecution. Okay, they have agreed to that. Now, the question is, who will preside over this impeachment, right? The question pops up. Generally, when you are impeaching a sitting president, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, or SCOTUS, would be the presiding officer. By all indications that we are hearing, that SCOTUS says, I don't want to get into a political kind of a bun fight. Okay, I am not impeaching. I'm not here to listen to the proceedings of a sitting president. So he's giving a subtle hint. Trump is no longer a president. He's out of the office. So therefore, I won't be presiding. So in that case, if your common sense prevails and the political kind of consequences of their actions prevails, they'll say, okay, that's an indication that this is not. So let me kind of step out. No, Democrats don't want to have any part of it. And I would say some Republicans too. It's time to take revenge against Mr. Trump. So therefore, this is the best opportunity to do. Under these circumstances, who would preside? The vice president of the country will be the presiding officer. Now, who is the vice president of the country? Ms. Kamala Harris is the vice president of the country. So she could emerge as the presiding officer, or she would say, I'll be kind of, excuse me, and appoint some retired chief justice or so, but don't know. It remains to be seen. So that's on the kind of the process and the proceedings. Now let's go to the next step, which is namely, is the impeachment, which is around speech and instigation, which resulted in riots and destruction, does it constitute an impeachable offense? Many people on one side of the aisle have stated there is nothing in his speech that states that he only wanted them to do a peaceful demonstration of their dissent against what happened, which is the electoral fraud. So there's nothing that says, go and destroy the buildings and incite riots and so on and so forth. So for this, they go back and draw reference to an 1801 letter written by Thomas Jefferson, which says that, when you have an issue, that the people have the right to dissent and right to express their protest and so on and so forth. They cite this as a precedence. But we have gone past all of that. So there is that issue around whether that speech itself, and how is this going to be decided? This is going to be again decided by this set of our political figureheads sitting in the House and Senate, or Senate making a decision. No, no, that constitutes that, and I vote. Okay, to proceed further. Okay, so let's go in, and this goes on. This drama goes on for 2 months. There's a subtle indication that they have asked National Guard to stay on till end of March. Okay, there's nobody else. The government is in motion, but still the National Guard is going to be in Washington, D.C. till end of March. Why? They expect some trouble, probably, but no trouble is likely to be forthcoming. But the National Guard stays on till. So they feel that this could drag on till end of March. So let's take that it drags on till end of March. So there's going to be a whole drama that is going to happen. And there's two scenarios. You get 67 votes, that is 17 Republicans voting and saying the president is guilty. Okay, fine. So Trump says, I'm guilty, right? Then he has the remedy. He has a remedy to go back into a district court or even escalate it to a Supreme Court and say, how can you impeach a sitting president and bar me from that's the only thing, right? So they don't want him to be visible in the elections. They don't want him to contest. So he can say, go to Supreme Court or a district court and overrule, which is it's constitutionally invalid. You can go and conduct. So this whole kind of drama will evaporate when it gets to that final stage post-impeachment. The impeachment itself is irrelevant, doesn't stand. Let's assume that what is the consequence of impeachment? He doesn't get an office, he doesn't get a pension, he doesn't get the security and so on. That also he will contest and say, hey, this whole thing is null and void, whole thing is unconstitutional, whole thing is illegal because, I haven't done anything which kind of what you say. So this is the drama and this is the sequence of, in my view, and I draw some of these things from the research plus some of the speeches that I've heard on one side. You go to the opposite side, they say it's all legal, 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 when there is no constitutional provision basically to impeach a non-sitting president, right? So therefore, this is the drama as I see, and this is the process. And we are in conjunction with these hearings, plus this whole drama around stimulus that is going to happen, plus those 4 big decisions, Paris Accord, immigration, the energy bill, and, all these institutions, and the COVID. We are still having COVID situation that is going. That's a separate topic in its own right. So this drama will go on, and I think it's going to be a massive distraction to the United States. I see a big problem in first quarter as far as the markets go if this drama takes an ugly shape.
Now, there are also dissensions within these parties. We have talked about dissensions in Democrats and dissensions among Republicans. Today, for sake of time, let us just stick to the Republican Party. Where are the fissures and where do you see the party going forward?
I think there's a set of Republicans who feel that, we saw that Mitt Romney is one, we saw Mitch McConnell himself, we saw Liz Cheney won in the House. You saw 10 of the House representatives from the Republican side voting jointly with the House Democrats in getting this done. So if I have to wrap up in 1 minute, I think Republicans have a problem inside. Republicans, there are 2 groups. One is a pro-Trump group, then there is an anti-Trump group. The pro-Trump group is pro-Trump group, like Jim Jordan's and Ted Cruz's and Josh Hawley's and Tom Cotton's. You have a whole bunch of them, who have stood up very firmly and talked against it. And then you have, Mitch McConnell's and Mitt Romney's and other kinds of people. Mo Brooks is a very big House representative, who is pushing for Trump to be exempted and even the election kind of a fraud being contested. So I think where it will go is there are all indications, this goes back to Trump making a statement, which is to say, this is the beginning, not the end. And I will be coming back very soon in some form. That was his statement from, Mar-a-Lago after he landed in Florida. I'll be back. I'm coming back in some form. there's a lot of indications that there's a new party that may be coming up. It is called as the Patriot Party. It's making lots of rumors. Lou Dobbs talked about it in the Fox channel. It is conceivable that there is a third party. It's called as the Republican. It's called as the Patriot Party. Whether they carte blanche and Republican Party will rename itself as the Patriot Party, or the whether the Patriot Party, whether there'll be a two or a three-party system that will emerge out of this, is something that we will know very soon.
Well, I should mention here that some Democratic senators also feel that there is no need for an impeachment, especially senior Senator Dick Durbin from Illinois. He doesn't think that an impeachment process is needed. So this is not done and dusted. This is not along partisan lines. There are some people who have some personal equations, perhaps with Trump, that they are trying to, cross. And one of the dangers that Democrats need to realize is if you try and demonize a person and it turns out that he isn't so, but you are giving him airspace, you are keeping him in the limelight, you stand in danger of suffering a backlash, which will drive the very people who hated him back towards Trump. So there is that danger. India knows it all too well. Go back and look at what happened in the period 1977 to 1980, and you'll know what I'm talking about. So let's take a look at business, and we still also have global news to cover. There's a lot of things happening around the world. First off, stimulus. Where do things stand on the stimulus?
Stimulus has no resolution, which is what this $1.9 trillion is hanging in balance. There's a lot of questions from the Republican senators' side that they have to oppose, especially is this $350 billion number, which is the local and community administration number. So they expect this number to be a significant number. And there was a debate over the weekend. The weekend has not finished here, on the conservative side as well as on the Democratic side. Austin Goolsbee is a famous. He says that the $2 trillion is needed, and he makes his case by stating that the President Trump's tax cuts had a $1.6 trillion impact on the overall debt over a period of 10 years. So the story is that this $2 trillion on a pandemic is needed. Now, I disagree with his view, and I've shared that with you, which is maybe one day I'll debate with him too, which is to say this $1.6 trillion is a cash in the hands of the people on a continuum. So there is an economic outcome that flows from it. When you put a $2 trillion money, we already put $3 trillion. We have got another $2 trillion coming through the Fed. So we have $5 trillion into the system. And you're going to add another $2 trillion on a $28 trillion debt. This $2 trillion has no multiplier effect. You have increased the taxes. You have cut jobs. You have made certain industries non-competitive. And you are now adding expenses which has no direct flow into the U.S. economic system. I know many Democratic pundits would argue, somehow you are going to have a butterfly effect coming in when you go and join, Paris Accord and put $450 billion as your obligation to meet that purpose. I don't know how quickly this butterfly will flow and stop and create, unwind the challenges in United States or the world. Don't know. Similarly, this $15 tax increase does not make any sense at all. In fact, there's a very strong article. We'll discuss this.
I think you mean the $15 per hour wages.
$15 per hour wages, that's also justified. $15 per hour wage has no kind of, many businesses will become non-competitive. And they've already estimated what it is. So I think what I'm trying to conclude here is that to answer your question, which is the stimulus has a problem because this $15 is embedded in the stimulus, is one of the line items in the stimulus, along with $1,400 direct payment, $400 for increasing it to the unemployment allowance, $15 minimum wage as a mandate, $350 billion towards this local government and administration, $170 billion towards schools, and then I think if I remember the numbers correctly here, because those numbers are, etched in my brain, so therefore I can go on repeating those numbers any number of times because it's kind of mind-boggling when you look at these numbers. Then you talk about $50 billion towards further pandemic. Then you talk about $20 billion towards the enhanced COVID test that needs to be conducted. So when you add these numbers, which we have done, right? So it comes to close to $700 billion or $690 billion. It's an astonishing number where you don't see any kind of a direct economic consequence that is flowing from it. So stimulus is stuck. If I have to use the numbers as a basis to give you an update, that there's going to be a lot of opposition from the conservative Republican members.
Sir, we will come back to business if we have time. We are already 30 minutes into this program. I would like to go now to the global news because there's a lot of developments happening in Asia as well as in Europe and West Asia and in the United States. Let's start with the 9th round of talks between India and China on the current status along the line of actual control. What we do know now, this is a fact, that China has built up what they call as a village on their side of occupied Arunachal Pradesh, and this is disputed in the sense that that is disputed territory. The Chinese have had that land for a long time. They have been there. Now they are making some proper constructions there, and we got a clarification that this started sometime last year, and now yes, they do have some finished constructions there. That is just one place. Now news is emerging that across the Uttarakhand border with Tibet, that there also the Chinese have started construction. It's not to say that India has not. India has also done a lot of things. It has made the Dawlati Beg Oldie Airport flyable now. You can fly in and out. They have access roads to that place. That is the last frontier, if you will, before you go into the Chinese occupied Tibet. We're going to use this word, Chinese occupied Tibet. After all, that is the truth. So what do you expect will come out of this latest round of talk that started today?
Nothing.
Then why are we talking?
Because there is a unique diplomatic code. You follow the protocol, you keep talking. You keep talking, you keep talking. Maybe they are talking where one set of people are giving what you call abusing them in Hindi. They are the other set of people sitting on the Chinese side are abusing the Indian side in Mandarin. So that's what may be going on. I won't go, you won't go. I won't go, you won't go. No, you came in. No, I did not come in. This is what goes on in typically in these things, right? Or they say you withdraw 10 yards, I'll withdraw 100 yards. Or you withdraw 100 yards, I'll withdraw. Most of the situation, this is what happens. You have seen this. This is the past precedence, right? So unless it is a Doklam type of a situation where Chinese realize they have hit a cul-de-sac and they have no way other than to kind of wiggle out, then they will find a mechanism by which they will wiggle out. And looking in such a way that it's a win-win kind of a situation. I actually posted an article just about a few days ago, the first year anniversary of Doklam occupation, right? The first year, attempted, not occupation, attempted standoff. The general who presided over the PLA and some members of the contingent purged. We don't know where he is. So I said, this is typically the Chinese kind of a response, right? And something dramatically went wrong in the Doklam scenario. What went wrong? If you hear the Indian side, that these guys kind of displayed. Usually Chinese do surreptitious. They don't kind of declare to the wide world, we are here, we are coming, and we're going to kind of take over. It seems like in that Doklam standoff, well, they kind of declared themselves the presence. So the Indian side got it. They basically said, this is a bluff. So we're going to stay positioned and we're not going to move. So in this situation, you have what you're pointing out is this 1959, the Assam Rifles battle with the Chinese and the Assam Rifles winning that and then leaving that outpost and coming away, and these fellows occupying that specific spot. This thing goes back to 1959. Now the houses have been built. And similarly, you have pointed out Uttarakhand. Similarly, you are pointing out to the line of actual control around the Galwan and the Ladakh kind of regions. And they still have not, by the way, withdrawn to their old terms which they agreed to. They have built up kind of lot of stuff around that region. So what it that points out to is China will continue to bug. China will continue to kind of bug. They also discovered in South China Sea this kind of an invisible drone attacking some South Thai stuff. So I mean, I don't want to deviate from your question, which is to basically say all these discussions go on to keep the army people on either side continuing to dialogue and make sure that nobody is kind of gaining one step over the other. By the way, India has not given up any of its strategic positions that it has taken in those, I don't remember the specific fingers, on those high points, which is of a big strategic advantage. India has built complete infrastructure, which has changed quite dramatically, especially in the LAC area. Dawlati Beg Airport, you mentioned, bridges that have been built, the positions that they have taken. We have now Agni missiles, SAM batteries, then you have BrahMos missiles, you have planes, everything. So India is ready to take China on and is not going to give up. As far as discussions are concerned, nothing is going to come out.
Thanks for the clarification. Let's take a look at some other events that are going on in and around the globe. What is the situation of COVID in Europe? It is really in a bad shape. We know that, but is the vaccine having any effect? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that the Europeans are relatively doing a better job and dealing with the situation. I think their procedure seems to be working, notwithstanding the fact that there is a new variant that has kind of hit from the UK. UK has also confirmed the new variant is far more dangerous relative to the normal. The vaccines are effective to combat, be it by Moderna, be it by Pfizer BioNTech, be it by even AstraZeneca. The vaccines are effective. My own friends I've not taken as yet. My own friends have taken in United States. They go through, a two series of steps. First, and then after 3 weeks later, they're given a date, and then they take the second. And in between that period, they're on a very strict kind of diet and all those types of protocols. Some people have had, apparently half a day, some kind of, unusual feelings in the body, which is typical, by the way, whenever you take any type of vaccine. Forget this type of vaccine. But this is direct feedback that I'm getting from people who have actually taken the vaccine, some within my friends' community. So I think generally Europe seems to be doing well. I think India seems to be also doing well. But coming back to Mr. Biden, because who came up with his chest thumping, which is to say, hey, I'm going to do, there is a spiraling death situation in United States. We'll be going very soon to 400,000 deaths. And Mr. Biden has stated we'll go to 600,000 very soon. By the way, I have no ability. I cannot predict and control the pandemic. So somebody asked him, do you have a plan? You said you have a plan. He didn't respond to that question. And I'm assuming that we will soon have a plan to tackle. Okay. As far as Europe is concerned, it's not as fatalistic as is. They seem to be weathering, but the general belief is that this will be extended till March 31st. Some of these moratoriums that are in place or lockdowns, etc., will be on till about March 31st.
Thank you very much, Sridhar ji. That brings us to the end of today's special episode. Please subscribe to our channel and also donate to our cause. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channels. Namaskar.
Namaskar, thank you. Tomorrow we'll be back at earlier, 8 a.m.
Yes, I'm sorry, I take that back. He is absolutely right. It is going to be tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and 5 a.m. Pacific. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, G. Have a wonderful Sunday, everybody.